Hello everybody, welcome back to the LMC channel. I'm your host Liam, and guess what time it is? It's Christmas time! Yes, Christmas. It's such a wonderful time of the year. The most wonderful time of the year, in fact. It's so nice to just spend time with the family, remember the reason for the season, and of course, play the insane amount of games that are on your list. So what am I going to play first? Oh, is someone at the door? I'll be right back. Please excuse me for like one bit. I'll be right back. And would you look at this? It's a present for me! So let's open it up and see what's inside. Oh hey, it's Sonic Superstars. Sonic Superstars does look pretty good, as long as they don't mess up future games like Sonic Superstars. Alright, let's talk about this. When Sonic Superstars was first announced, I got very excited for the release of the game, as it was a brand new classic Sonic game. The first new game to only focus on classic Sonic. I'll have to explain this. You see, when I was younger, I had a little thing called Classic Sonic Bias, where I would only buy a Sonic game that featured this little guy. That's why I was so hyped for Sonic Mania, as it was, at the time, a brand new 2D classic Sonic game, and it is also why I played this game. But this is a story for another day. So, back to modern times. When this game was first shown off, I was so-so about there being another classic Sonic game. Sure, I was still excited, but there had been so many games starring this nostalgia-baiting hedgehog that it just felt like it was just too much. However, now that the game is out, let me spare you the long details and just say that Sonic Superstars is a fine game. There is nothing really groundbreaking with this game, or anything memorable. It's just okay. It's not as good as Sonic Mania, not as good as Sonic 3 and Knuckles, though I would say it's better than Sonic 4. But I have so much to say and so much time, so sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself. This is my review of Sonic Superstars. After the release of Sonic Mania in 2017, Christian Whitehead and Sonic Team began working on a follow-up for Sonic Mania. Several ideas began floating around, one idea being a Sonic game that was traditionally animated. Though, eventually, the team came up with a prototype for a Sonic game that was a 2.5D game, akin to games like Donkey Kong Country. However, despite working on this prototype, Sonic Team and Whitehead decided to go their separate ways. There's not much known to why the two split, though apparently Sonic Team and Whitehead are still on good terms. But it is still unknown why they left, as Whitehead's team, now called Evening Star, began to work on their next game. That being the upcoming Penny's Big Breakaway, which is one of my most anticipated games of 2024. That and that $70 remake of a PS2 game. Anyways, Sonic Team's producer Takashi Iizuka one day was invited to a Zoom drinking party by the original designer for Sonic the Hedgehog, Naoto Oshima. Apparently the two are good friends, and at this particular party, their conversation went a little something like this. Listen, pal, I bet I can make a better Sonic game than whoever the hell you put in charge today. Oh yeah? We'll see about that, Bob. Okay, it probably didn't really go like that, but what's important is that Sonic Superstars started development soon after. Let's talk a little bit about Naoto Oshima himself. As I mentioned before, he's the original character designer for Sonic the Hedgehog, aka the guy who made this abomination. He worked for Sonic Team for most of the 90s, directing Sonic CD, Nights into Dreams, and Burning Rangers, and working on Knuckles Chaotix and Sonic Adventure. Though after working on Sonic Adventure, Oshima left Sega to start his own company being Artoon, where he directed and designed the characters for Microsoft's big video game mascot, Blinks the Time Sweeper. Anybody remember Blinks? Not just me? Anyways, R2 became defunct when their parent company, AQ Interactive, filed for bankruptcy. The employees working at Artoon left to form Arzest, where the company was recruited by Nintendo to make games for them. Oshima would direct We Play Motion, and then produce Yoshi's New Island and Hey Pikmin, though both Nintendo 3DS games weren't received well by fans and critics. He would go on to supervise for Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, the first time he ever worked on a Sonic game since 1998. But prior to Sonic Superstars' release, he helped develop Balan Wonderworld, a game that is saved for another day. Anyways, Sonic Team's Iizuka felt that Arzest were the best to work on the next 2D Sonic game, as their experience working on 2D games with Nintendo,
Plus, the team being mostly EX employees of Sonic Team made him feel like they were right for the job. So they got the right to work, and after 2 years of development, Sonic Superstars released this previous fall to mixed receptions as most Sonic games have. Oh shoot, it's apparently best on Xbox. The story of this game is, get ready for this, Eggman is doing bad things, go stop him. There's more to that though. Eggman has begun experimenting with the North Star Islands, trying to find something there. He recruits a bounty hunter to help him explore the islands. Knack the Weasel! Jet the Gerbilbo! Fane the Sniper! Vane the Hunter? Most Sonic fans who play more obscure Sonic games will remember him from Sonic Triple Trouble for the Sega Game Gear, where he made his debut appearance. This was the game where he had the biggest role, as after that, he was put in a few spin-off games and then forgotten, minus a few cameos. Until now, where he appears in this game. Before Superstars, I liked him, simply because he was an obscure Sonic character that didn't have a lot of time to shine. Until I played this game, but we'll get to that later. Fane discovers a native living on the island being Trip, designed by Naoto Oshima. Trip is a sun-gazer lizard who's shy and wears a mask to hide from people. Trip joins Eggman's army, and Eggman continues to search for the secrets of the island until Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy appear on the island to stop Eggman's plans of world domination. Now that was the prologue for the game, which is fine for a classic Sonic game. Nothing too big or flashy. Wish they put it in the actual game. Yeah, for some weird reason, to know what the plot is about, you have to read a comic on the website for the game, and it's a good comic, but you know, it should have been in the game. The whole game has a hard time making you remember Fane and Trip are part of the story, as they weave in and out of it. What do I mean by this? Well, take a look at a game like Sonic 3 and Knuckles. In that game, Knuckles comes out of nowhere and is a big threat to you, chasing you all across the island. In Sonic Mania, it was the Phantom Ruby and the Hard-Boiled Heavies who took you to past locations and stopped you from Eggman's plans. And in Sonic Superstars, Fane tries to stop you twice, and both Fane and Trip watch you in the background. You see what I mean? The presentation in this game is beautiful, as the colors really pop out. I mean, after Frontiers decided to go for a more realistic setting, it's nice to see something that looks like Sonic's world, especially classic Sonic, as they did a really good job translating his world into HD. The game goes for a 2.5D art style, which they have done before with Sonic, especially in the Boost games, and it really shines here. They can do stuff that classic Sonic doesn't normally do, like move into the background and foreground and other things. The physics in this game are great. Sonic and the others control the way you want them to, though I do feel like the characters feel a little heavy when controlling them, and it feels like it takes a while for them to build up speed, but it's not that big of a deal. People who don't usually play Sonic won't notice, and Sonic and Friends control close to their Genesis counterparts. It's just more of a nitpick for me. With Sonic Mania, I believe they got the movement and momentum down right, and even though the game somewhat uses the same engine as Sonic Mania, they tweaked it just a little bit, even though the controls were perfectly fine. There are 4 playable characters in this game, each one having different attributes from one another. Sonic is the fastest character of the team. He has the same moves as he did in Mania. Tails can again fly and easily go over some obstacles. Knuckles can glide, punch, and climb his way through the levels. And Amy, who can double jump and hit oncoming enemies with her trusty Pico Pico hammer. All 4 characters are fun to play, and I must say, the best character to play as in this game is Knuckles, as the levels have a lot of secrets to find. So yeah, I say that this game is a fun single-player game. Now, multiplayer, this game can go die in a hole. So this is the first classic Sonic game that supports up to 4 players, co-op multiplayer. Now that sounds good on paper, but its execution is terrible. The game focuses itself on one of the random 4 players, and you just hope and pray that they don't run off screen. It can really mess up your flow in this game, having to constantly jump back and forth into the game. It's clear that it was more of an afterthought, thrown in just for fun. Though it's not fun, it's glitchy, and crashes your game from time to time. Like, why? Probably my favorite feature to come out of this game are the Chaos Emerald powers. Just like in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, you jump into these giant rings scattered across the level, allowing you to enter the special stage. They're not the most memorable. All you have to do is swing from blue orb to blue orb and collect rings to keep the timer from going down. It's fine, though I will say it's a lot more fun in multiplayer, as each person takes turns swinging, and I found it a lot more engaging, strategizing with others to maneuver around the course. Once you get one of the Chaos Emeralds, the game grants you the powers of the Emerald. Avatar, which sends a Knuckles Nation upon enemies, objects, and other things. Bullet, which allows you to boost up in the air and jump over objects. Vision, which reveals hidden rings and platforms to find secrets. Water, which allows you to swim without losing air and gives you the ability to climb up waterfalls. Ivy, which creates a vine to reach higher areas. Slow, which slows down time. And finally, Extra, which gives each character a ranged attack. Sonic's homing attack, Tails' tornado kick, Knuckles' punches, and Amy's hammers. Also, getting all 7 Chaos Emeralds grants you your super form, just like in previous games. When I first got my hands on the game, I thought to myself that I was never going to use them and just speed throughout the game as all the powers are optional, but they were the best inclusion that came with this game, and I can't think about playing this game without using those powers. Though Vision and Water were only situational, they were a lot of fun. I just wish they were incorporated into the game more. There are also bonus stages found when crossing the checkpoint with a certain amount of rings. These will lead you to the Sonic 1 special stages, where you have to collect medals in order to get out. I really like these, as I think I'm probably one of the only people in the world to really like the Sonic 1 special stages. One problem that this game has is its music. It flip-flops from having great songs such as Speed Jungle Zone Act 1, to Press Factory Act 1. The reason for this being is because the game has multiple composers that worked on the game, and there probably wasn't enough communication with them. Like, they brought back T-Lopes, who composed the music for Sonic Mania, and also Jun Sonoe, the guy who doesn't know that classic Sonic doesn't need Genesis music. So that's the reason why the songs range from bangers to forgettable, as the good ones stay in my head, while the other ones are forgotten. Now for my favorite thing to talk about, the zones. The zones in this game aren't bad. They're really great at first, and they become a chore to get through during the second half. The reason for this is because they're so long, and don't really have anything to stand out. The zones are laid out like a new Super Mario Bros. Game, where they're new, but they take ideas that were already in Sonic games before. Bridge Island Zone is the first zone in the game, and it's fine. I mean, I'll take the first level in a Sonic game that doesn't have green or hill in it, and instead has a bridge and an island in it. It's a fun level though. I mean, it shows off the basics for the game, and also shows stuff that classic Sonic games couldn't do before, such as go into the foreground and background, and run up the side of these walls. Act 2 shakes things up, by having the zone take place at sunset. Yeah, that's pretty much it, but hey, it's still pretty cool. Speed Jungle Zone Act 1 is probably my favorite zone in this game. It's just so fun to grind on these vines and dodge these upcoming enemies, and the song from T-Lopes is just amazing. I think the only part I don't like about this stage is this part where you pull on these vines to get to the top, and if you don't jump on another vine in time, you die. But hey, it's fine, especially since there are no more lives in this game. After this act, you have the option to go into Act 2 or play an exclusive character act. This one is called Act Sonic, and it's a fight with Fane, where you have to outrun his oncoming attacks. Speed Jungle Act 2 gets a little bit trickier, as you have to run around in the dark. Don't play this stage with friends, it's awful. Sky Temple Zone is our first stage with only one act, and it's a Sky Sanctuary clone. There's some moments of speed, and I like this breakout part, but that's about it. Pinball Carnival is your standard pinball Sonic stage, with Act 2 being all spooky and putting more emphasis on the carnival aspect with these roller coasters. Again, don't play in multiplayer. Lagoon City Act 1 and 2 are your standard water zones in this game. I think it's trying to be like Aquatic Ruin Zone, as you can entirely skip going underwater. There is an exclusive act being Act Amy, where you hit these fruits and save Trip, and it's the most memorable part of the game. Sand Sanctuary Zone, you ride on a snake, and there are these rails to ride on, and that's about it. It's your standard desert stage. Press Factory Zone Act 1 has this giant machine pounding the ground in the background, so not only do you have to pay attention to what's coming in front of you, but also what is going on in the background, as it will affect the stage. Act 2 then has this machine go after you, and you have to reach the buttons in time before it blows up the zone. Golden Capital Zone. Love the name, love the design. I like the part where you go upside down, but this level is bad. There's so many parts that are just really pinball, which we already saw in Pinball Carnival, and also there's lava, and these praying mantises guys from Sonic 2, and these bees, and the section where you are a platform, and not to mention Fane steals all your emeralds for Act 2, and you have to get them back, and it's just, ugh! Also, this is the last time where you see Fane in Sonic's story, as Trip easily defeats him by turning into a dragon. It's not a bad stage, but they could have cut down on a lot of stuff. There's also an act, Knuckles, which goes on for way too long for its own good, and everything blends together, where I thought I was going around in circles. Cyberstation has a lot of ideas going for it, like the 8-bit characters and different things you can turn into, though I don't like turning into mice, squids, and rockets, but it's inoffensive enough where I don't really care. Frozen Base Zone Act 1 is your standard snow level. It has a conveyor belt, and that's about it. Act Tails, which the option to go to is in the Ron section of the game. Great job, Sega. But Act Tails is actually pretty cool. But do you know what's cooler? Act 2, which is inspired by the 1986 arcade game Fantasy Zone. This is a really cool homage to that game, and with this and Ikaruga and Sonic Frontiers, is this going to be a trend where Sonic games will reference an obscure shmup?
Okay, hear me out. What if, for the next Sonic game, one of the levels was based off Space Harrier? Does that sound good to you? Stop giving ideas.
And finally, Egg Fortress Zone, which is your standard final zone, though the second act is reversed, which is pretty cool. And those are all the stages in Sonic Superstars. Again, they're just generic, barely anything that stands out. Also, they said they were going to have 12 zones in this game, and there are only 11.
Well, brand new zones await.
I feel ripped off. Let's talk about the bosses in this game. Okay, so you know how in Sonic games you can just easily spam bosses like this? Yeah, some guy at Sega said,
okay, hear me out. What if we give Eggman invincibility frames so you can't hurt him? And not only that, but sometimes he'll pop up in the background so you can't hurt him at all. Any questions? You're fired.
These bosses are terrible and are some of the hardest and worst in the series! Like the Cyberspace 1, Fane Fight, and Final Boss! They all suck! They're just so hard and it's just so unfair! This is where the Emerald powers come in, as they help you a lot with these bosses. After beating the main story, Trip becomes the 5th playable character in the game, and what did I think of this?
To all my Trip fans, where you at? Any Knuckles fans in the audience?
The moveset in this game is actually pretty fun. She has a double jump like Amy, and can also climb up walls like Knuckles. Her story is a hard mode of the main game, where the levels are tweaked a little bit. Egg Robo from Knuckles' story in Sonic 3 replaces Eggman, but yeah, her campaign is inoffensive and fine. Except for her final boss. Instead of going up against Egg Robo, who doesn't really have an importance here, you instead fight Fane, and oh my god. This might be the worst Sonic boss in any game.
I take back everything that I said about you!
First round, you dodge these insta-kill lasers and watch where he's going. Second round,
He's just standing there. Menacingly!
well, he throws projectiles at you, and then he throws out these spider webs at you, and you have to dodge them, and then he bangs his nose into the ground, and it's just awful! The only way I was able to defeat him was with this glitch, where, in your super form, you can trick the game into not depleting your ring count. It was the only way I was able to defeat him. Do I feel bad for cheating? No. Do I hope I never see Fane again? Originally, I got excited for his return, but now I freaking wish he never shows up again. And since you don't see him after this fight, I'm gonna presume he's dead. Good riddance, you filthy rodent! Never come back. Oh yeah, there's also a battle mode in this game where you can build your own robot. This is the reason why you collect these medals in the game. It's just some Mario Party minigame. That's all I've got. Nothing to say here. Finally, once you beat Trip's story, the true final boss appears in this game. Out of nowhere, a giant dragon appears. What? Originally, Eggman wanted to unleash this dragon, which is why he came to the island, but he failed. But he still shows up, barely being hinted at, unlike a game like Sonic Adventure, where chaos is being built up as this creature of mass destruction throughout the game. This dragon isn't built up, so he just shows up out of nowhere, and Sonic has to take care of him. It's a fine boss fight. I was just happy it wasn't hard as Fangs. Once Super Sonic weakens the dragon, Trip puts the dragon back into an egg, and everybody lives happily ever after. Whoop-de-frickin-do. And that was me talking way too much about Sonic Superstars. My expectations were very high for this game, as I was very excited for the game when it was first announced. Though, as I got my hands on the game and continued playing it, throughout my playthrough, my opinion on Sonic Superstars went from, yeah, another classic Sonic game, to, oh, another classic Sonic game. In conclusion, Sonic Superstars is a game that gets better over time, the more times you replay it. Though, this is one Sonic game I'll probably forget about and just dump it in the mediocre pile. Not good, not bad, just okay. If I had to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd give it a 6. Should you get it as a Christmas gift? If you like Sonic games, yes. If you don't, just go play Sonic Mania. It's so much better.
Well, I think that wraps up everything I have to say. Still never figured out who gave me this game. Oh well. Once again, my name is Liam. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to do that thing that every other YouTuber tells you to do. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Also, one more thing. I hope Fane the Sniper is dead, because if I ever see that wolf Dribble Weasel again, I'm just gonna scream!